All right, I hope you're feeling like your batteries are charged and you're ready to go for this next segment. I was talking to a man from a company the other day. It's a fairly large company, and his particular section. And I said, "What's your biggest problem right now?" And he said, "We can't hire enough people. We have 20 open jobs in my section alone. We can't find the people." And what you just heard in the previous talk by Richard on the IRA was that there are 9 million new jobs coming out of that act alone. Where will we find the people? And so this next session is really all about that. It's entitled Energy Heroes, Building the Clean Energy Workforce of the Future. And it's going to discuss how organizations are approaching trying to improve recruitment for the renewable energy and the clean energy industry, including developing partnerships to remove barriers to participation in the workforce. Moderating this panel, and I'd ask the panelists if they would to make their way up now to the stage. Moderating the panel is IREC's very own Director of Workforce Programs, Dr. Janell Hill, who has experience developing work-based learning and apprenticeship programs. We also have with us Geovani Caldero, environmental and solar workforce instructor at Solar One out of New York. He's born and raised in Puerto Rico. He has designed, developed, implemented a variety of solar educational programs. We have virtually joining us today James Metoyer. He's executive director of InterCity Collaborative, a nonprofit that works to ensure the financial, environmental, and health benefits of a clean energy economy are fully realized by BIPOC communities, and frontline communities, and underserved communities. And we have Francisca Peral, who's an instructor at Stacks and Jewels, working to bring more diversity and inclusion into the building automation industry. And then we have Wendy Angel, Southern California Regional Director at Emerald Cities, where she directs the Southern California Regional Energy Network Workforce Development Program. And so at this time, I'll turn it over to Dr. Janell Hill. Janell?
Thank you, Larry. Thank you. Thank everyone for joining and coming out to IREC Vision Summit. And thank my panelists who are going to share some amazing information with you today. As Larry shared, I am Janell Hills, the Director of Workforce Programs with IREC. And I am honored to moderate today's panel that is so relevant to reach the clean energy goals and to diversify our workforce. We know that opportunities for clean energy careers are some of the best kept secrets in our country, but significant barriers prevent interested individuals from pursuing these career pathways. This is especially true when considering the underrepresented populations and communities we need to reach in order to build an industry that better reflects the U.S. population. As you know, we need to be more intentional about our recruitment efforts. So we're definitely going to share information on how to do that. We've heard that word intentional several times from the keynote panelists. So we know that that is the word of the day, intentional, and more aggressive in removing barriers. I like how this effort is described in the solar job census. How many has read the solar job census? Yeah, not enough hands, but that's a lot. So look that up when you get back home. It describes this effort as building the clean energy workforce of the future is a monumental challenge that will require a coordinated action to succeed. And I think that says it best. So today, we're going to dive right in. We have an esteemed panel of experts who are going to share programs that they are leveraging that are leveraging the clean energy transition to bring prosperity into families and communities across the country. So, Fran, I'll start with you to share a little bit about you, your organization, and your work. And you can choose the next one. No, her mic is not on.
Okay, it's on now.
There you go.
Thank you. Hi, Janell. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, hi, everybody. My name is Fran. I work for a nonprofit called Stacks and Jewels. Our work with my work with Stacks and Jewels, I'm an instructor. We teach our students HVAC, lighting, and we work with a software called Niagara 4. And throughout our curriculum, we input professional skills. So we build up our students to feel confident in these areas. So like that, when employers do come to see them, they are, confident and ready to go. So a little bit of my background. I am an alumni from Stacks and Jewels. So I went through the program with my high school, City as. It's an alternative school. So that is where, students who are not going to make it go to. So like we have like a whole bunch of ages. So at that time I was like struggling with school and like what I wanted to do in life. So I interned for Stacks and I saw that it was a really different type of teaching. So it was more like welcoming. It wasn't like, oh, we need people who know technology in order to enter the program. So it made me more like comfortable to go in and not feel intimidated because I really thought that, technology was only for, smart people or for kids that get A's and not for somebody who never like, got higher than a 60 or a 70 because, life happens. But yeah, so I went through the program, I graduated, and I really saw um how I could fit in and I could be part of something. So after that, like I went through the program and Mike who's in the audience and John had given us like an opportunity to one of the girls, because it was an all girls cohort, so one of us were going to get a full-time job right after the program ended. So I honestly didn't think I was going to be chosen because one, I wasn't tech savvy. Two, I was very, very quiet and shy, so I had bad communication skills. And I was like, there's no way I'm going to be one of them because, one, I don't know coding like that. And I was chosen at the end. They saw something in me that, was going to help other students build confidence. So, in that way, through like my shyness and everything, they helped me build myself up in like confidence. And like now I'm able to teach that to the girls that I'm with now or teaching, or like adults that we teach as well. Yeah, I don't always share my age because I feel like there's an age thing with when you teach, sometimes because you are younger, you get the whole what can she teach me, like, she's young. But at the end of the day, I always tell them, it doesn't matter who's teaching it, or like their age. It matters like the passion and like the support that they're giving you. So it's like, like yesterday I got a text from a student of mine saying that he got offered a job with Climate Tech. That's one of our employers, and it was 71K, his offer.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I don't want to keep on battling because I feel like I would talk. And
we'll definitely circle back around.
We'll circle
to get
back.
Some of those success stories.
So Geovani, I'll pass it down to Geovani.
Thank you.
Hello. Thank you, Fran. I'm Geovani Caldero. Also go as Gio. Like if you see me, you can call me Gio. I am from Puerto Rico. And currently I work in New York City. Any New York City folks around here? Nobody? Yeah. New York City? There you go. Okay. I work for Solar One, a nonprofit organization, and my background is in education. I started teaching biology to 11th graders, and then I move on into teaching more about climate change and stuff like that. And I was hired by Solar One in 2017. So I was a rookie into like solar energy and all that. And Hurricane Maria hit the island of Puerto Rico and destroy everything. And that's how I get more or less in contact with some people in the audience, Matt, Carlos, because I was reading in the news, oh, there's like a solar happening in this like healthcare facility and stuff like that. And I read like who is the people working behind this, and that's how I started sending emails and so on. Anyway, saying all of this because um, my family was without power for like 11 months after the hurricane. We are from the town of Corozal in the center of the island. So they were without power. So I was here in New York City. I was able to collect many donations, and I fly to the island, and most of them were solar, and I did not know too much about solar. But also, I was able to install like a PV Direct solar water pump to help the community, and at least they have water, fresh water, because there's no power. There's no power for the electricity for pump the water pumps. So many people started asking me like, "Hey, I have solar in my house. It don't work if we don't have power," and so on. So I noticed that many people don't know what they have in the roof. Many people don't know how to troubleshoot if they have a small system with like a small battery and stuff like that. And I decided like I am working in solar one, so I need to step up my teaching skills and so on. So I decided to start teaching about solar. I get some training and all that. And now I am the solar CTE program manager in Solar One, and my program um, runs across 16 different CTE, career and technical education high school in New York City. And we go into the Bronx, to Flatbush in Brooklyn. We go to East New York. We go to Manhattan. We go to many places. We work in Queens in high schools that have CTE programs, specifically like electrical construction. And the teachers start developing the training, and then when I go there, I teach about how to integrate solar into their AC service in their house, because the students already know the AC side. Um, so yeah, that's what I'm doing right now. And at Solar One, I started also working with workforce development, going into in a connection with the previous panel. I started working in Rikers Island. Rikers is a jail in New York City, and we were the ones delivering the programs in Rikers. We were going, knocking doors, and meeting students. Once they are released, they continue the training with us, and that's what I do. That's what I do. I will pass it now to Mr. James.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thanks for having me here today. My name is James Metoyer. I am the executive director of EnerCity Collaborative. We are based out of Portland, Oregon, and we are brand new. Started up this about 2 months or so ago. And as our speaker who introduced us, our mission is to help Black, Indigenous, people of color, underserved, underrepresented communities find their place in this clean energy economy. So I know that's very broad. And so what does that mean? Well, I think it really means it doesn't matter what hat you're wearing. If you're a homeowner trying to tap into this money because you know your home is inefficient, how do we help that person access those incentives? If you are a contractor, a minority contractor wanting to get into this space, how do we help them be successful business owners, entrepreneurs, and can expand and scale to meet the needs of where we see the workforce is needed? And then last but not least is the workforce itself, really helping those who, are potentially unemployed, those, once again, who have very much been overlooked and historically overlooked as far as getting into the industry, and those who want to get in the industry. How did they find their place? A little bit about my background. I got into the industry during the R days when there was funding, when Obama was in office. And when I got in, I got my BPI, Building Performance Institute training, excuse me. And that really set me on a path to start learning about how to do retrofits, doing energy auditing, and really coming up with scopes of working, helping people diagnose these issues that are in their home from an energy standpoint. But as I got into the industry and learned, as I kept up with my education, it's really about this intersection between healthy homes and energy efficiency. That's really a big part of the work where I like to make that connection really happen and help people understand that this work actually has an effect on their health, and really promoting those non-energy benefits of this work as well. Fast forward, I'm doing some retrofit work. I worked with the company Earth Advantage as their workforce development training manager. We work with the top 4 pre-apprenticeship training programs in the Portland metro area to really help those students that are on their path to get into the trades, to help them understand that they need to start looking at different aspects of when they're getting into that. There's actually green or energy efficiency trajectories within those specific trades, whether it's carpentry, whether it's electrical, whether it's plumbing, or HVAC. There's actual things that they can do to help separate themselves, find their niche. That way they can specialize and potentially be entrepreneurs, or once again, just very skilled tradespeople getting into the industry. So I'll stop there, and I will turn it over to our last presenter.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Wendy Angel with Emerald Cities. We're actually a national nonprofit headquartered here in DC, but I am the director for our SoCal programming, which falls under the Southern California Regional Energy Network, or SoCal REN for short. We are ratepayer funded by SoCal Gas and SoCal Edison, administered by Los Angeles County. We implement our workforce education and training sector. But the program that I wanted to highlight specifically for today's panel and discussion is our Green Path Careers program. So we have programs for contractors, we have programs for in-school youth, but we really saw a gap when it came to opportunity youth and adults. And that encompasses our transitioning foster youth, homeless, low-income, disadvantaged, but also those that are justice impacted or are coming out of the system. And so really, we saw a need there, and so we provide energy efficiency training for that specific youth and adults. And we start at the age of 18. There really is no cap on the age. Our oldest participant is actually 61. And we provide case management support. So we're addressing the barriers in the beginning to make sure that they succeed in the program. And for some, it happens right away in terms of, finding employment and finding opportunities. For others, it takes time. But everything is on a case-by-case basis. And really, the success of our programs is, again, trying to make sure that we're addressing those barriers for those that are entering this field.
Thank you, Wendy. We have a lot to unpack in a short period of time. So let's just dive right into it. James, I'm going to start with you. This is going to be a question, a two-part question. What is your organization doing to raise awareness about career opportunities in the clean energy? And how are you removing the barriers that one may be facing to start work in clean energy?
So I'll start with the second part of that question. I think it's really working with the pre-apprenticeship training programs in the Portland metro area. These are going to be organizations that are specifically working to get those underrepresented communities into the trade. So we work with Oregon Tradeswomen, Portland Youth Builders, Constructing Hope, and Portland Opportunities Industrialization Center. And they do a great job of really working with those students, young professionals, in assessing those barriers of what is keeping them out of the trades, and helping to deliver whatever that is, stipends, transportation vouchers, other things in that regard, to help them relieve those barriers, and assessing what do these students need on the front end before getting into the program. That way we can help them for being successful as they go through that program and then take it to the next step after they graduate. I would say that as far as once these students graduate, it's really about helping them understand, or helping to bridge the gap. One of the things that we had saw when I was the workforce development training manager at Earth Advantage is that there's been not so much of a process to get these students into jobs. So working with builders, working with them to help them understand what are the certifications needed to take to the next level, especially when, some of these students, when you're talking about getting into this space, they're not going into the commercial side. A lot of this funding is going to be on the residential sector, and it's a different circumstance or different certifications that are needed to understand how to assess a home, how to do this work, working with contractors versus a commercial or a union side where it's like, a year 1, 2, 3, 4 apprenticeship. So really helping to understand what are the certifications needed, what do the contractors that are working in the home performance residential space need. That way we are working with the pre-apprenticeship training groups to help them understand, hey, this is what we're hearing contractors need, this is what the market needs, and at the same time helping those students understand what are those career paths within specific industries. So with really quickly regarding those career paths, he's worked on a residential energy auditor career path. If you want to be and going into carpentry, what does that mean? And helping to give some information about new construction building techniques, advanced framing techniques. If they wanted to go into the HVAC career pathway, highlighting heat pump installation, heat pump water heater installation, and then last but not least, a very specific retrofit career pathway to help students understand that this is that entryway, but also highlighting the aspect, in essence, the way I look at it, students getting into this industry, if they're still doing retrofit work 2 years from now, they should be assessing that, because it should be about getting up to those middle management tiers and potentially being business owners themselves.
Thank you, James. So in that, I heard educating and understanding their needs and highlighting their career paths. Fran, I saw your mic go up. Do you want to add to that?
So I want to piggy off what James has said about knowing what employers want and need, like certifications, or like let's just say, for example, for us, the building automation field requires EPA 608, OSHA. So we're partnered with another nonprofit called Henry Street Settlement, where they have clients that are based in the community, so they know what they want. Like, their clients will come and take our program if they're looking for, to be placed in, or like even like, just venture out building automation, even if that's not like, they don't know what it is, because like you said in the beginning, it's a secretive field. It's like it just got open to, and the information is just coming out about building automation and like the different careers that there's in building automation. Like that, I never heard of it when I was like, going to school, or like I never thought about, oh, like this is gonna get me to, or this place, or this field is very, there's not enough diversity, there's not enough, inclusivity, there's not enough women. So it's like, making sure that we are also looking for like what they need, like what does the employer need from us to get our trainees there, and then also making sure that the employers are also seeing the value in our trainees. Like, once they get hired into these companies, we want, they're going to advance and level up to another tier in a couple months, or like in a year. So it's like making sure that our employees or the employers are, valuing the trainees, because there's a bunch of employers that, or trainers, or like programs that train students, but then they go off to a company that, let's just say, don't value their employees, right? And that kind of like disengages like the community, and then it's just like, we're not welcome there. Like Carla has said, the welcoming, they don't feel welcome. So it's like from there, they're like, this is not for me, or like, I don't fit in here. And, making sure that we give them that welcoming into, or like making sure that the guests that do come in from the field want to help them and want to, build their skills and their value up, and,
That's
so on.
very important, building trust
Yep.
with that community. Gio, I hear you, but they can't. So why don't you add a little bit to that?
For sure, thank you. one of the main um, things that I see and for experience is that we have, going back to intentionality again, we are the reflection of what we serve, right? So sometimes I go to places and students look at me and like, you are the Latino, you speak Spanish, like how do you know about solar? Can I go and join solar? And that's like something that we have to start thinking when we have to know the community, and if you don't know the community, there's someone that does know the community. So you establish this type of partnerships, and in New York City we partner with the whole program, with Fortune Society, with other many organizations that are out there serving the community, because if we don't know the community, if we don't look like them, they are not going to feel that they are part of this industry. Another important thing that I see across the board is that most of the time we tend to focus in the technical skills because that's the field that we have. For example, the installers. Last year, I had my first cohort of 100%, like it was like 16 women in 11th grade in an electrical program, and it was like, wow, this is the first time in 6 years that I see mostly women, but they were not into installing too much or doing like wiring and so on. So I changed my class, and then let's do something of design. Let's do this software. Let's do other things, like let's do a site assessment across the community. Let's do more. And another important thing, now that you're here, we are going to start networking. I need people to come to my classes virtually like this to speak to them. Like they don't know that they belong here, you know? So most of these students don't know that this is a career path that they can take. Or even when they go to college, most of them have that mentality of I have to go to college. But sometimes you can, from high school, start your career if we give them the resources and the tools that we have in place so they can be successful in the future.
Thank you, Jill. Wendy? Go ahead.
I just wanted to emphasize the barriers portion of that question because our previous panelists really made a good point that, you know, the communities that we're focusing on face a lot of barriers when going into this, you know, clean energy field. And we can have the training programs, but if we don't provide the wraparound services, then, you know, our participants will not be successful. They're facing housing insecurity, they're facing food insecurity, and, you know, there's especially with COVID, you know, mental health issues. And if we don't set up those wraparound services, as much as we, you know, we provide funding for these programs, but we don't set that other side up, then our participants will never be successful.
That's very good. Carla told me a story before we got started, and she referenced an individual who was prepared to take the BPI test for certification, and the day of, she did not have transportation nor did she have childcare. So those wraparound services are very, very important. And sometimes you have to leverage those partnerships to remove those types of barriers. So James, why don't you chime in and let us know, how are you leveraging partnerships to remove barriers to entry?
So I think one of the first things I can say is that, you know, when COVID hit, no one knew how this was going to affect us. And so working with the top 4 pre-apprenticeship training programs, we didn't know what this meant for our workforce development training. Like we had no idea. What it ended up being is you have to meet people where they're at. We had some organizations that went completely virtually. We had some that were still doing in person, and then we had some that were doing it in a hybrid approach. I think it was really about meeting those organizations where they were at in order to make sure that we're still in front of the students and they still had access to us for mentorship, job shadowing, internships. It's really, it was really just trying to navigate that as we kind of went through COVID. But as we got on the other side of that, I think it's made our programs more robust and at the same time given these students more opportunities with, like I said, paid internships. We want to pay students for their time. We'll give them the scholarship to, so Earth Advantage has a Sustainable Homes Professional Scholarship. In essence, it's really teaching these students that want to get into new construction about how to build a home from the ground up and make it energy efficient, sustainable, and green. And so really giving them access to this to give them a good broad overview of getting into the industry. Once students get that, we pay for the scholarship, but we also pay them for their time to sit down in front of the computer 15, 20 plus hours to actually take this course. After that, once they've taken part of that, then they schedule a one-on-one mentorship, and either with me or potentially with somebody else in the company to get out in the field. What is it like in the day of a rater, of an energy auditor, of a site project manager? Actually get them out on site with people who are doing this work in the industry. That way they can see it with their own eyes, get a feel for it, but at the same time, make a connection with that employer as well. Because the employers are starting to see, wow, there are really good students, really good talent coming out of these programs. And it's just about fostering that connection, making that connection to where, those students feel like those project managers or business owners, when they get out on site, that they can contact them, and it's about cultivating that.
Thank you. Go ahead, Fran.
Oh. What I want to, with the whole barriers, because I know that's always a big thing when it comes to the workforce. With our program and also with our partner with Henry Street Settlement, that helps us also engage more and spread out our program and the training throughout New York, like in every borough, also like through social media. But our program, all we ask is for commitment. Like, we don't test them. We don't ask if they have any tech, background or tech experience. Like, it's a question, but it's not needed to take our program. Or like, we don't need you to like pay us like if you get your first, because I know there's some programs out there that after they get their first pay, like they need to give it back to like the program that they took. So it's like we don't ask for any of that. All we ask is for commitment and, for you to show up for yourself. And I feel like that opens up, a lot of opportunities, and, the intimidation is a little bit like dissolved because, a lot of programs say, you need tech, at least like an experience or like knowledgeable in computers. But we don't ask of that because, I also as an instructor didn't have the tech experience, and I'm here and I'm teaching it. So it's like, giving them the confidence to be able to learn new material and be good at it or become good at it with the support, the check-ins, the when you guests come in, making them comfortable to ask questions and not be intimidated by asking, a question, or if a question is dumb, or if a question is, not like, because high school has a lot of trauma where, you ask you say something and you have the whole class laughing because, you said the wrong answer. But in this class is a no judgment zone. So they feel open to asking questions. Yes, it is a struggle to, for them to open up, that trauma and say, ask question. Like, there's no wrong question or no wrong answers or no wrong, but little by little they get comfortable and they start asking what they really want to ask. So we break that. And also like the whole confidence and like, you can do it. Like, yes, your past was horrible, or like, yes, you did this, but you have a part in this, community as well. Like, you're able to make yourself better than who you were before. Like, making like no barriers for them creates them for them to come in and feel welcomed and be part of something. Like, it's all about making them feel welcome in, the community and like the program.
So thanks, Fran. Before I move to the next question, I know your story, but why don't you share what that piece of Stacks and Jewels did for you, removing those barriers, keeping you engaged in the program as a woman who was very shy, and now you're teaching for the program. Talk a little bit about what that did for you and how that propelled you to where you are now.
what that did for me, like stacks, and how it kind of well, it saved me actually because I was so close to dropping out of school and just saying like I don't know where I'm gonna be at. But it helped because it made me see myself as somebody valuable. It wasn't like, oh, you know, she doesn't have value because she doesn't like have the best grades in the world. Like high school has this thing with grouping students, you know, like the smart ones here, then the ones that are a little bit noisy or like, like they're very bad. They place them in another grouping, and they give them like the end of the stick, programs to them because they think that they may just end up in the streets, in jail, or they're gonna me as women and also Hispanic Latina, uh, probably have kids and so on and end up in the projects, right? So it like helped me see myself as somebody more than that, somebody that is capable of learning things and is capable of becoming better. And even though there were challenges throughout like my journey, you know, becoming comfortable with the uncomfortable definitely helped. And also like the support system I had, having John and Mike, and also like my teachers, my principals, like I didn't have so much support at home, but like I found it in school, and that's what helped me keep my head up and saying, what I went through, now I can teach and help other students and, build them up and tell them like, they are valuable, they will become something, and that they are going to be part of somebody, like a part of something big, and that they can make it out of there. And I feel like um, Stacks and Jewels helps with that and seeing that value in yourself instead of, just making you small, which is like, high school experience for me was like feeling small and feeling like I didn't have a voice. But also making sure that everybody knows that they can all be leaders and not just, certain people.
I want to add something. I guarantee that you're going to be an excellent instructor in the future, and you are already. Um, Anytime that I teach, I see myself reflected in my students. Sometimes this year during the summer, I teach 100% Spanish speakers that were new to this country. Some of them were like 4 months into this country, 2 months. They were not able to speak in English at all. And I have others like they speak French. I don't speak French, but I did the thing. But I mean that I see myself how they are struggling with the language and all that, and they see people like you and like a like a like a role model, like oh, this person is teaching this and he struggles the same way that I am doing right now, and I tell them how I came to this country without knowing how to speak in English. I barely can introduce myself, and now like 7 years later, I'm here speaking to this audience. Um, and another important thing is to follow up with your students. If I don't know if you are like related with teaching and all that, but for example, this cohort of students, they identify with me, right? And nobody in the company, more or less, they don't look like me, but when they have you as a role model, you have to follow with them. So they, to this day, they still reach out to me. They ask for letters of recommendations, like, and you see what's their status. Some of them were immigrants, they were waiting for MAGA and others like immigration status, and that goes to the first panelist about policy, right? But the thing is that if we follow with them, they are going to be successful not just in the solar industry or in the renewable energy industry, but just as a citizens or just as a human beings. And that's what I want to add to your comments.
Thanks, Jill. Wendy, do you have anything to add to that?
I think this goes back also to the first panelist. Not, I don't teach, but I think exposure to, our younger students, because like they mentioned, they are the future workforce, but they don't know the different careers that are available in, clean energy. And STEM was really popular for a while in high school, and all the high schools wanted to be STEM schools because engineering was, the it thing. But there's engineering within the clean energy field. We get some students, especially our younger students, and especially our girls as well. Our girls lean more towards, going into like the social sciences because they don't see themselves in these fields. So I think having those role models, in these careers, and then also guiding them. There was a thing about, not just training entry level, but guiding them into how they can move up the ladder, either by going to school, taking different training courses, just making sure that they know what that pathway is, and that we're exposing them. And that we don't, leave them, that we're doing the follow-up, that again, it goes back to providing those wraparound services, that we're addressing their needs and their barriers.
Thank you. That goes back.
Yes,
James.
Janelle, I'd like to, yes, thank you. I'd just like to add one last piece here before we get to our next question. I think that it takes a village. You were asking about, raising awareness. It takes a village to really help the community overall understand what this work is. So part of the other work that we're doing is working with community-based organizations, nonprofits that represent the communities that need this work, those frontline communities. For instance, we're working with the African American Alliance on Home Ownership. We want to help train not only their staff, but other people that, or companies and minority contractors they work with. That way, those are the folks that are going into the homes that can say, hey, we can help you get your home to the energy efficiency standard or more energy efficient, address these healthy home issues, whereas historically that's not what it has been. So really looking at the community-based organizations that represent the community, nonprofit organizations that represent those communities, working with local home builder associations and other pre-apprenticeship training programs.
Thank you, James. Thank you. Providing those wraparound services to retain these employees after we recruit them is a very big piece of the puzzle. So I'm going to go into our last question. I don't know where we are with the time. If somebody can let me know, I would appreciate it. But how do we ensure we are recruiting new, thank you, and diverse talent into all occupations, not just entry level? This question came up earlier in the Q&A for the keynote panel, but we have a stellar panel here that's going to share some recruitment efforts to recruit new and diverse talent into all occupations, not just entry level. And we'll start with you, Gio.
I think that one of the main issues here is that, as Wendy mentioned, like people don't know what is out there, and some people have backgrounds or they are already working in other parts of the industry, and they don't know that, oh, you can do this in the solar industry also. Like, for example, one thing that I always remember from my classes and all that, and from other people that works, is like social media and marketing. Some students are good at that, and not just students, but also there's people working in social media and all that. And then, like, how can I transfer this into this industry where they already have experience? Is something that, no, this is my expertise. I am doing like marketing, social media. I don't know how to transition that into the solar industry or to the renewable energies. And now I see many job posting around like you can do social media. We need more advertisement. We are posting this or that. And the other thing is, I have in my notes here, that yes, people have to know what is out there in order for we to create the opportunities for them. It don't matter if it's entry level or like mid level or more advanced level, senior level. And the other thing is, yes, doing the usually we have like people think that the solar industry in particular is, as I mentioned before, is only installation, but there are many other opportunities that are including system design, other type of opportunities out there, and including public policy also. Some people are lawyers, some people are working for the government, and so on. So you can see right here that there are many people with different backgrounds, and we have to encourage to open that opportunity for a variety of people with different backgrounds and experiences.
I feel like what helps us also be able to hit the different fields and different positions is by bringing the employers to the students and having students present what they have worked on in class. So like, we have employer like guest visitors, for example, and let's just say we go over HVAC or like the basics of refrigeration or lighting. So we have students present that to the employer to see and see how they know the system. And let's just say at the end to our every time for the adult cohort we hold a job fair where each student has like a section and is like we have a bunch of employers come in and the students have their own section and they're presenting what they've done in class. So let's just say one has lighting, the other one has HVAC, the other one is doing Niagara, some are doing wiring. Um, so like that, employers get a little bit of everything, and they know that we have a bunch of opportunities in every aspect of their company or like in every aspect of their organization. Like it's not just advanced, it's just not low level or like this. It's in every little thing. Like we try to hit every thing that employers want. So like that, you know once they come in and students go through the job fair process, after that they get these job offers for different little things, like not little things but big things. Like they get to be part of a company. It can be entry level, it could be advanced, it could be in the middle. It could be that in a year from now they'll level up from where they came from. But it's always showing them that there's an opportunity for every little thing. I mean everything. And also showing that the employers that there is opportunities here, there is commitment, there is passion and drive in this community, and diversity and inclusion and equity. Like this is what you get, and the employers also see that you know there is hidden talent in undervalued communities.
Wendy?
For us, in our programming, paid work experience during that training is key because it could be a short internship, it could be a long-term internship, but they're gaining that experience while in the program. So when they do go out into, and get a full-time career, they already have that experience under their belt. And so, I mean, we have our in-school youth program, the ACES program, where we're working with kids in the 7th and 8th grade level. They have their first internship at 14. Every summer, they're working on BIM files. They're working on these large projects with architects and engineers. And by the time they graduate high school, they have all this experience under their belt. And some companies ask for the same kids, every single summer. And we just had our first cohort of graduating college students this past year. And so, it was a group of 12. And it's a long-term game as well. So we've tracked them since they were freshmen in high school. Now they're graduating college and going out into the real world and gaining employment. But because they have all that experience, they're not going out as graduating college students into entry level. They're able to get mid-level careers now.
That's awesome. James, you have about 1 minute to tell us how you're recruiting new and diverse talent into all occupations, not just entry level.
Okay, so one of the things we're working on and we're looking to expand much further is really getting in front of students at an earlier age. In my opinion, we need to be in front of students at a middle school age, even though we're not going to get very technical with the building science, but we're exposing them to this information, exposing them to that benefit of energy efficiency and healthy homes. That way, when they get to high school, there's another high school program where it's a little bit more technical and maybe get a little bit more into the carpentry side. That way, when they're graduating high school, now they're ready for a pre-apprenticeship training program, or they're ready for an apprenticeship, and they can keep on. And at this point, when they're graduating high school and really thinking about what career choice they want to make, they've had 3 to 4 different touch points specifically about energy efficiency. I think it's also really important to start getting in front of these high school career coaches to let them know these students in 4 to 5 years can be making 6 figures, and college is not for everyone.
Very good. Thank you, James. I know I've told my colleagues at IREC that my nephew and nieces are probably sick of me because I've said over and over again, do y'all talk about clean energy at school? No, on Janell. The next 6 weeks, have y'all started talking? It's like, no, we are not. So it's important that we start reaching those students at an early age to provide them with information so they would know about the industry, the best kept secret in these careers. This is an opportunity for us to recruit and develop a new and diverse workforce. I see Larry standing over my shoulder. I feel like my time is up, so you can come on up, Larry, and we can start the Q&A.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Janelle. What a great panel! Woo! Let's hear it. All right. We're going to take a few questions now, and as I've said before, this is going to be like a broken record. We've got attendees virtually as well as right here. And so we handle the questions in a couple of different ways, but line up at the mic. I see folks are doing that. And for those of you who are here, but if you are virtual, there's a Q&A tab to the right of the live stream window where you can drop your questions, and you can also upvote questions that you are particularly interested in, and the top voted ones will be brought forward to the audience by an IREC staff person. So let's go with first person.
Hi, I'm Debbie Rowe. I'm with National Council for Workforce Education. We're the co-convener of the National Clean Energy Workforce Alliance and part of the summit today. Thank you. Love the examples. We need to go to scale. So you want it in the high schools? 8th grade is the last chance they really get earth science class, right? So is it in the textbooks? We're convening publishers of textbooks. Are you working with NAAEE, National Association, North American Association of Environmental Educators? Let's standardize this in the curricula. Do we have really cool videos that we can put out on TikTok and Instagram? Let's go where they go, right? We can't bring in the employers to all the classrooms we need. So how do we take solutions to scale? And I wish the US DOE person was right up here, right? I also think about not only, I know you're in the room, so we're talking not only the underrepresented groups we've had, this is like a dream come true to see what you've been talking about, but also rural areas, poor kids, and they, a lot of kids go into the military instead of, they could be a clean energy hero for their country. So where's the national recruitment campaign? Just where do you go when you're ready to take it to scale? That's my question. Thank you.
Mike Conway, do you hear this? We need videos. We need videos and curriculum.
I think I could take a stab at that question. So we develop our own curriculum with the community colleges. And so for SoCal Ren, we cover 12 counties in SoCal. And so we don't rely on the school districts because we realize really that was not the way to go. We're doing it at the community college level. And in terms of targeting the rural communities, it's not just the rural communities that, is our main target and one of our main populations, but also the indigenous tribes. That has been a goal that we have been working on for this year. And so bringing them to the table. So we go out there and not only, again, we assess their needs and what is it that they want out of our programming, but again, focusing on our earlier kids. So we do the 7th and 8th grade level, but we have workshops for our younger kids that are not able to, take our curriculum at the earlier ages. We rely on partnerships. A lot of collaboration happens. We're all working in silos, but we rely on each other's resources. We can get this done. And so we also partner with industry. We're the first high school program that has partnered with SolidWorks, which is an international 3D computer-aided design software. And so we can have curriculum outside of the community college if it's, if they're not willing to work with us. So we're not tied to one single source.
I also want to say something, picking off what Wendy said. So definitely, the partnership aspect is very key to putting out the resources for and information for the students, and of course, getting them at a young age is very important because you're putting that little seed in their in their heads, and it starts like growing from there because you start tying it to community. If they do that at an early age, they start seeing like their thinking grows, and they see themselves at different places, and like also with bringing in guests of like that look like them, so like that they know that they fit in, and there's a part for them in there. And there was more I had to say, and it just left my
Come back to
All right. Next question.
So I'm going to pick up where Deborah Rowe left off in terms of scaling and ask the money question, but I'm going to ask you to ask the money question. The experience that we've had in New York, I'm Adam Flint, I work with the Energy Democracy Alliance and Network for a Sustainable Tomorrow, is that it's very hard to find funding that has a long time horizon vision for it, meaning that it's very hard to find funding that brings you back into the early grades or that is going to support intermediary organizations and build capacity in groups like the ones represented here. So if you had one thing that you wanted to say to the federal government that has all of this money coming out in some state governments, in terms of how that money is structured, if you will, so that you can actually use it for what you need to use it for, what would that one thing be?
I'll take a stab at that question. I think this goes back to the Justice 40 initiative. Like, what do those benefits look like, and making sure that the definition is being defined by the communities that are going to be at that table. It's what does that benefit look like to you? And so for us in SoCal, we're moving at a lot quicker pace when it comes to clean energy, but we have our workforce advisory committee. What do you want to see from this funding? So it's not just for us as the implementers of these programs. It's making sure that we set the table for those communities and those community-based organizations.
I agree 100%. Also, I wanted to say that what I would tell them is like that they need to, invest in these students. They need to see that and put the money where it's most needed, which is with, making sure that we're giving opportunities and programs that, see every public school and not just a couple, because there's not enough money,
I think I'm going to piggyback on what Darnell shared earlier. If the same organizations and group of people keep getting the same money, then we're not diversifying the workforce and providing opportunities to underserved, underrepresented BIPOC communities. And that's where the need is. We have to provide more exposure to these communities in order for them to be gainfully employed and earn a livable wage for them and their families.
I'll just add really quickly. Yeah, I'll just add really quickly to this. I'm in an area in Portland, Oregon, where there's a program called the Portland Clean Energy Fund, and this is the first of its kind in the nation, where it was led by communities of color to benefit communities of color as it relates to energy efficiency, healthy homes, sustainable, and a clean energy economy. And so we're on the forefront of some of that work. And as far as what could I say to the government, if you will, like supporting more holistic programs. Like I've said before, everything in our industry is a little bit siloed. So how do you bring more collaborative efforts together for the community? Bring the people who own the homes, bring in the people who can do the work, the workforce that will actually get in there and create more programs to get more collaborative efforts in between all of those programs. And just one last thing, as just maybe an honorary bonus there, more money for deferred maintenance for these communities that haven't had access to money to take care of their homes, because we're seeing a lot of those issues pop up as well.
I'm afraid one more question is all we can take. Go ahead.
All right, and this question is from our virtual attendees. So thank you to everyone who sent in some questions. It looks like we only have time for one. So the question is, employers often say that soft skills are equally important to the harder or technical skills. What are your organizations doing to develop these skills in your educational and developmental programs?
Great question.
One of the things that I'm doing, that we are doing at Total One, is that we are also training the teachers. We started with like 4 schools. We were like really like short, and now we are working with like 16 schools. And every year we train the teachers in the way that they learn about solar and all that, and now they are starting to get to the point that they are requesting us different ways that they want to tweak their program, in particular for the needs of their students. So some of the teachers are more into their carpentry or construction, so they want more of that. Other schools are like engineering or architecture, so they want more of that. So what we are doing this year, going to like soft skills, is that we are doing some training on using tools like helioscopes and doing like system design with the students that are part of the engineering class in architecture schools. That's one of the ways that we are trying to spread out not just the hard skills, but also the soft skills that are involved in this industry.
Janell, you want
I can just add real quick. One of the things that we're doing in our program is we have students, they come in, they do a home energy score, they understand what it means to actually do a retrofit. And then we go and they have a summer camp that we expose them to the different aspects of this, of the different jobs that someone would do, an insulator, air seal, or energy auditor. But then at the end of that, we actually have them go out to the community as an energy ambassador to do a home energy score, and then to potentially talk about what they need to do in that person's homes to really help them start building up that skill set. And these are going to be students who are in that 14 to 16, maybe even a little bit older age range, to help building that skill set of talking about these subjects in their own communities.
All right. Let's hear it one more time for this panel. All right, great group. I want to thank all of them, and now we're going to transition to facilitated breakout session. So for those of you here, stay at your tables. You can stand for just a minute if you want, shake it out. For those who are virtual, you're going to access the virtual breakout room by going to the home page of the event app and clicking on the breakout rooms button. That'll bring you to the breakout room page with guidance on how you should proceed from there. Additionally, you'll see on the event app when I finish talking guidance on how to get into the breakout rooms as well. We've got about 15 minutes. All right, let's go. Talk.